Hey, Punk here. Doesn't it always seem when they're saying to look over there, something consequential is happening over there? So it was this week with the Epstein files and whatever else the media was paying attention to, except for the Genius Act. I think if you've heard me before, you kind of understand that I think Trump, or this era of time, is the time when a new system is ushered in. And he may very well have been selected to usher in this new system. This week, the Genius Act allowed, Congress gave the authority to private entities, we'll call them the big banks, to issue what essentially will be tradable tokens, tradable coins that you and I will probably use very frequently in the not too distant future. Now, it's not legal tender, but it's seen as money for most interactions. It looks like the Federal Reserve, which again is neither federal nor does it have reserves, but is a group of banking cartels that has complete control over our monetary system, which is not reportable to either Congress or the president, right? Or really much of it all. Is going to oversee this. And this is going to be, I think the consequences of this are huge. But this week, everybody was paying attention to the Epstein files, which is this great mystery. Obviously something big obviously something really creepy is going on there. And it could be that the conspiracy theories were true, that these people that are elite are truly degenerates. It's possible. It's possible, unless you totally take for granted the appearance of the world, or what am I trying to say here? Is unless you just accept and are mimicking everybody and without thought to it and just going along, which, we all do. But reality is essentially whatever is shaped for us. It's the one that we're presented with. So, I don't know. I believe that most of our systems have become institutionally corrupt. If there was one concept I could impart upon the world and ask people to go look up and to understand, like in their being, is the concept of institutional corruption, because we're swimming in a sea of it. It's all around us, and we're blaming weird things as being the cause of it instead of just admitting to ourselves that, our systems no longer focus on their purpose, on the reasons why they exist. They've all become scams of some sort. I kind of always say, we gave the highest incomes to people on Wall Street, so that incentivized all the best and brightest to go into Wall Street it's been decades now. And we're surprised that the whole world is in debt. Somehow they managed to get us $340 trillion into debt globally. It's all been fine. The financialization of the economy is also another term I wish people would understand, because we're not living in the economies that is really presented to us in Econ 101. There is supply and demand here, especially at the lower levels, but once you start getting to the private equity and stuff, it has rules all of its own. It's almost completely divorced from the rest of the economy. For the longest time, actually, what was good for the Main Street economy was bad for the stock market. There's times like that, because why? It's all hinged on the Federal Reserve's interest rates. How much debt will they loan us at what cost? But, everybody's paying attention to the Epstein files. And now that story, it seems like they're trying to just get us to be exhausted with that. That's also a big strategy under totalitarian regimes, is that they don't want you to believe the lie necessarily. they just want you to get so exhausted of it and just yeah, at some point it just becomes a meme of itself. Like you just no longer care. Like, so because you don't know what to believe, you know? And right now it seems like the media, who is all owned by, I mean, essentially the banks, the banks and banksters. I mean, it's all the same people that own the media corporations, that are doing the private equity, that are, you know, out there putting the deals together, the deals together, financing it with our sweat, our labor, our taxes, our debt. And so the whole time they're like, more debt for you guys. Why? Because they're making sweetheart deals for themselves up here, and they're just gathering more power and more control. Undoubtedly that's happening. I mean, that if you don't see that happening, well, actually I don't blame it, because on X this week people were talking about IQ versus EQ, you know, intelligence quotient versus, you know, emotional quotient. And I've always understood it like this. People with an 85 IQ and people with 135 IQ really live very, very separate realities, you know, because the person with the 85 IQ, you know, what is IQ? It's really the ability to handle complex tasks, complex reasoning, be able to see multiple different nodes of the whole, and to be able to put it together. And some people they can only see what reality is presenting them. And beyond that, it's like, you're just crazy. This is how I understand it. And it may even be the most simplistic understanding, but they believe that this is how things work. And they don't realize that there really has been a concerted effort of very wealthy and powerful people. I don't think this is a conspiracy at this point. I mean, we can name the meetings, we can name the dates when people get together who are very powerful and influential and seem to consolidate a system, systems, and seem to be agreeing not out of state sovereignty, but, you know, out of this supranational governance entity and all of its political or public relations appendages, because once it gets the message, it then hits all of the political action groups, hits the media. I mean, and since ownership has been consolidated to just fewer and fewer companies, there is a coordinated message to shape your reality, clearly. I mean, you can see it happening if you look for it, if you don't just accept all the cultural programming and propaganda, quite frankly, that is coming at you. And in these days with social media, we're basically mainlining, you know, political, cultural propaganda narratives, man. I mean, most social media has just become sort of a attention and control for your mind. That's all it's really. So the more outlandish things that are said or are done are obviously the things that's going to catch your attention. So we've devolved into a Jerry Springer digital reality very quickly. And that's a nasty place out there on the X's, you know. I kind of do believe you kind of have to embody the change you wish to see. And if you're going out there and just, yeah, this little camera's starting to act up a little bit. Yep, see? What is that? Let's change that. Anyway. But yeah, I mean, that's a powerful concept from the Truman Show, actually. It was Christof talking to Truman at the end, saying, you know, most people just accept the reality in which they are presented. And some people just grow up thinking that, you know, student loan debt is normal, that, you know, houses should just cost that much, that, you know, I feel like I'm just being funneled into like mindless career pursuits and PowerPoints and stuff like that, or I'm being short shrifted by actually doing the hard work and not getting paid very well. You know, it's a weird, we've kind of created a bunch of perverse incentives, and, you know, we're not telling people to like focus on anything that's like good for them, like their health, their spirituality. We're actually saying, oh, that stuff's bad. Just shoot yourself full of more, good stuff here. Well, we got you covered. 36 injections this year. I mean, like, what are we, if you can't admit that maybe our institutions, since our bureaucracies are really quite old as far as bureaucracies are concerned, have been gamed. I mean, the evidence is everywhere, actually, that they've been gamed by special and insider interests. Like these people on the inside are not innocent little people. I mean, they are a big part of they're the ones writing all the rules, writing all the policies that codify, sort of a bunch of things that institutionalizes the corruption, where the corruption is sort of just the normal thing. And people work their entire lives in these systems. Fed propaganda, they do have their own internal propaganda, but never really questioning the out, and I don't think they want to. But, because I mean, we have a lot of perverse incentives in society that people inside the systems, they know in a lot of cases. They may not be fully aware, but they're just going along. And I think that was a pretty powerful quote. I wish I knew who said it, but it's the one where it's not so much that evil people do evil, it's that so many, and I'm paraphrasing, that so many people just stand by and let it happen. That's the real evil, And now it looks like the PR agencies, because all of these groups are paying buku bucks, like $1 billion to PR companies. $1 billion went into Joe Biden's PR campaign. I mean, $1 billion. That's a lot of money. That's a lot. I think we lose track. We hear millions and billions and trillions, which most people can't even actually conceptualize. I have a hard time conceptualizing $1 trillion. It's that much money, And we're now we're at end of empire here, just devaluing the currency and just spewing it everywhere now. And nobody says anything about any of this stuff. We're 37 trillion debt, 2 trillion in structural deficit. Some sort of crisis is going to have to come to get us out of the liquidity problems that we're having right now, out of, the problem that some people are backing away from the dollar. I mean, right now, it's a good time for a crisis. It's a good time to usher us on to this brand new thing that just got pushed through Congress. I mean, private entities now will be able to issue coin. You'll have it in your little digital account. You'll treat it like dollars. But instead of with the Federal Reserve Bank, which was actually a banking cartel anyway, but instead of it even being like really overseen by the government anymore, I mean, Congress in theory will have the authority, but it looks like they're just ceding it up right now to private corporations. And we can probably guess that these private corporations are going to be private equity firms. It's going to be the big boys like BlackRock and State Street, Vanguard, and others. And I mean, that's just going to consolidate power so much. So much. And I mean, if this goes through, I'm pretty sure in 20 years, very few of us actually transact in dollars, real dollars anymore. It will be through these stable coins that we just find so convenient, and But I don't know. Yeah, I just feel like this was the most because I actually do believe that a new system is coming online. And while we're still sticking with old concepts like capitalism, socialism, communism, which are purely 20th century, late 19th, early 20th century concepts, and our brains have been so manipulated. And I think we all should just accept that to some degree. You know what I mean? Like that, if for no other reason, you've been marketed and advertised to off the yin yang. But this has all shaped your reality, your perceptions, the things you want, your longings, your emotions, your thoughts. These are the things you're filling your mind with, right? And if you're filling your mind constantly with very short clips or things that are just meant to entice you, or basically candy, just little candy drops. Reality is going to seem, I don't know, being present in reality is going to seem weird, I think, for some people. And they're not going to know how to communicate anymore in a real way where they don't feel like just an avatar of themselves or something, because we're sort of we're dehumanizing ourselves pretty quickly under these new systems. We're digitizing ourselves and commodifying ourselves. There should be when your system is run by bankers, it should be no surprise that we're having war for profit, that women are commodifying themselves like never before, and it's just, these are the values of the system, the way I see it. And everybody's just going along with it. But communism and socialism right now, I think, would actually be the most insane things, because what you're saying is take all these same people and give them a lot more power. Either way, those whose voices and opinions have far more influence than our own, and you've all experienced this online, that some voices have really big reach and can be very influential. Well, in a sense, when you're talking about the banking forces, right, I think, and it's been designed this way, going back to, we've always seen that the banksters are always looking for their angle. Somebody's going to need some financing here. And we want to be the ones to provide it. And war has obviously always been a great business model. And, it is a little scary, because that's one of the US's last domestic industries. We're not very quick with it. We're not very good at it, but we still control a lot of weapons productions. I always think that's funny that the left, chastises the right about gun control. Meanwhile, right behind their backs, the government is literally funding. In 2023, we gave weapons or sold weapons to 147 different countries. That's out of 197. So like 2/3 of the world, we know what they have because we sold it to them. And we actually don't want to give up that market. That's why they're so upset about this drone warfare. We were caught with our pants down around our legs. We spent a lot of money on doing it, but they were too busy having cocktail social hours and shit. Seriously, going to conferences. Not getting shit done, but making some deals to get shit done, but it never gets done. So, anyway, yeah, man, it's just, I wish I could get people to understand institutional corruption, because it's such a, and then add that with believing that there are people who want control over us, so just totalitarianism, and understanding how that comes in, because totalitarianism is, I can't say it any other way, highly linked to propaganda. Because totalitarianism is control over your minds, over you just accept the reality in which you are presented, mothers, and if you don't, we actually have a serious stick over here. There's some carrots to get you to go that way. Oh, communism's gonna be utopia. Socialism's just so fair. Blah, 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 blah. We've seen this play out. We've seen everybody come under its spell. Oh, man, it just sounds so fair, yeah. And then in the end, we just realize it's a bunch of concentrated oligarchs just telling us what to freaking do, and we're all paying for their crap. Sort of the same thing that's going on here. We really are just, your debt is going to finance all of this. And it's not only going to finance, if I explained this shit, you would be like, what the hell? That's how this crap works? And I'd be like, yeah. And you'd be like, how is that right? Right. Yet that's how much I believe they have us distracted. That we are seeing some of the greatest immoral, and what's crazy is they have us fighting between each other. For stuff that really isn't even real. It's made up boogeymen that they're actually trying to almost conjure into existence. We want more racism. We want more animosity. We want more poverty. We want more, blah, 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 because they want us always blaming each other. Male privilege, white privilege, whatever. They always want that crap because it's very baser within ourselves. You know what I mean? They know that. They know that I don't know, man. Humans do like to blame others. I think that's the heart of why we go to war for everything, right? We blame others for our own failings. You know? We don't want to look at ourselves, so we're just going to bomb the shit out of you and make you suffer. No, there is that weird thing with guilt, right? Like some cultures just get so guilty. You see Germany doing it right now. They feel so, it's been so ingrained since World War II to feel guilty for about what they've done, that whole country is just, I've only visited a couple of times, and the guilt, like especially with the women, there was just this, we've got to be completely the opposite of all of that. Like an overcorrecting, I guess is what I'm saying. And I think they've overcorrected. Like you don't have to commit your own cultural suicide or whatever to respect somebody else's. You know what I mean? You don't. And anybody who says you have to, that's just, that just seems to be coming from the same sort of places, you know, the problem. It is the problem, right? This concept of righteous hate that is in politics today. Like, I hate over here because I believe those people are hating. That thing, and a lot of that is just them projecting their stuff, them not dealing with really the real failings of society. The fact that many of us are growing up in very different family structures than we ever did. It was very rare for anybody to ever grow up outside of their extended family and leave their area. I mean, some of us are the first generations growing up away from family, you know, two parents working, totally new game rules to the game. All of this, you know, it would definitely take some adjustment time. The fact that it has been thrust upon us and we've gone so fast down these cultural changes. But if you just pay attention, I mean, everybody knows, we all kind of can see through the cultural programming on Netflix. We kind of make fun about it. But I mean, it really is happening everywhere, where they're just getting you to look, the media is getting you to look over there. Meanwhile, just a little bit of awareness over there, you would go, oh, that's what they're doing. I see that. You know what I mean? And I know that sounds like conspiracy theory, but I mean, if you just start to put pieces together and understand that we've even been warned about this stuff by former presidents. It looks like former presidents even got for this stuff. You know what I mean? You know, we think, we accept the reality, and what if our vote doesn't matter? What if nothing really freaking matters? What if we're all just being bred to be consumers and tax slaves and to further our plight into indebted servitude for these efforts so that they can capitalize and finance and use us as their collateral to build, for some reason, these just vast rentier society where they're just skimming off the rest of us. And I mean, you know, I always just point to, we are $37 trillion in debt in this country. Think about, well, see, people don't understand, but think about how much money that could fix all of the cities. We could have brand new infrastructure. I mean, we could do a lot with $37 trillion. I mean, don't fool yourself. And we have nothing to show for it except wars and pumping up asset bubble schemes, right? Ponzi and all this BS that the taxpayer, I mean, the average newborn is going to be saddled with like, what, $500,000 worth of debt? I mean, if it's going to be a taxpayer, you're going to have $500,000 just coming out of the womb into America. Here's your bill. You know, like, whoa, that's not looking out for posterity, I have to say. And I think that's tied to what I call the greatest immorality of our lives, lifetimes, is that we're using generations ahead of us. We're exploiting children. I mean, I call us as, we've taken on child abuse as sort of a part of our identity. And we don't even want to admit that, but I mean, we're doing things to children today that are particularly not good for their psyche, and everything sort of seems to suggest that that's true. You know, it's not good for anybody's psyche. I mean, people, you see the, you know, people are saying, oh, this is late stage capitalism. This is, you know, they have us framed in these 20th century paradigms again. Dang, I don't like that. But, yeah, and we're not trained basically to look over there. I mean, that seems so obvious, right? We just haven't been told to look over there. If we looked over there, we would have a lot better understanding of what's going on. Okay, it looks like it still is recording, even though it's having that weird thing. So anyway, it is really hot out here. And I just want to say thank you for coming along on this walk and letting me babble about some concepts going on out there. I feel like, you know, I don't know. I just feel like there's some things worth considering. And I hope I said something worth considering today along this walk. And whoever's watching, hey, there's a driveway. Let's try to do this again. Come on. Well, I'll just say bye this way. All right, well, peace out.